What happened is that turning 60 made me realize I started eating a lot of sugar. Alexandra, you're 60. What are you doing? We decided that I wasn't going to weigh myself. It wasn't about losing weight for me. Two guys have come up to me and said, wow, your arms look amazing. Body does react. It doesn't always.
Yeah, it's a reflection of an internal and external environment.
My name is Alexandra Paul. I am an actress. I've been an actress for over 40 years. I'm probably most known for being on the television series Baywatch. I've been vegan for 14 years now. I became an animal activist, and where I ended up not being disciplined, though, was with my food. I was anorexic and then bulimic. Aware of food, afraid of food, struggled not to eat a lot of sugar.
All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, a reoccurring guest. We're recording a Fit Vegan success story episode with Alexandra Paul. All right, welcome to the Fit Vegan Podcast. I'm your show host, Maxime Sigouin, and I'm the founder and CEO of Fit Vegan Coaching, a company that is on a mission to help 10,000 people get lean, thrive, and reduce their risk of chronic illnesses by 2033 and 1 million by 2050. I believe that having a fit, healthy body and mind is the foundation to living an incredible life, and this is what the show will give you if you choose to listen and implement. Enjoy the episode and have a great day. Alexandra, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me on, Maxim.
Yeah, excited. Now we're having you in a different capacity. So for the people listening, we did an interview about her story. Now today we're going to be talking about her transformation with us in Fit Vegan. And so for the two people that don't know who you are, because I'm assuming a lot of people already know who you are, you might kind of giving a little background as to who you are and kind of what brought you to the place where you wanted to take on this body recomposition transformation.
Well, I'm 61 years old, so that is a big task. We might use up the entire episode telling you who I am. No. Okay, just the basics is that my name is Alexandra Paul. I am an actress. I've been an actress for over 40 years, and I've starred in over 100 films and television projects. I'm probably most known for being on the television series Baywatch for 5 seasons, but I've done several other television series and lots of other things. Depends what kind of things you like in your entertainment. You might have seen me. And I am also a vegan. I've been vegan since I was 14 years now, and I've been vegetarian since I was 14. So there was a 33-year lag between vegetarian and vegan, but during that time I became an animal activist and gave up wearing animals. And in my acting contracts when I was in my early 20s, there was no makeup allowed to be makeup that was tested on animals could not be used on me. And I had that in every contract that I wrote up, and didn't wear fur. Tried not to wear leather. If it was really obviously leather, I would ask the wardrobe people not to, but a lot of times like the shoes might have been leather, because in the 80s, it was really hard to get anything other than that. But in my real life, I wore plastic shoes from a store called Payless. I don't know if they're around anymore, but
I remember.
So yes. And I'm also an amateur athlete in that, I have done the Hawaii Ironman triathlon. I've done several other triathlons, the Boston Marathon, and long distance swims, like up to 14 miles in the ocean. So
short races, basically.
Right. I learned long ago that I didn't have a lot of fast twitch muscles, that I was an endurance person.
Same here.
And I'm kind of an endurance person in life. Like I am a plodder, meaning I plod, not plot, plod. I plod along, and my superpower is the fact that I am disciplined. I'm not particularly great at anything, but my discipline carries me through. Where I ended up not being disciplined, though, was with my food over the years. I really struggled with food from the age of 16 to 28. I was anorexic and then bulimic. And then after I became abstinent when I was 28 and no longer was bulimic or anorexic, I still was very aware of food, afraid of food, struggled not to eat a lot of sugar. I would go back and forth. And I exercised a lot to maintain my weight, or at least I thought that's what I was doing. I'm not sure. Um, I probably wasn't eating as much as I thought I was, but I
Yeah.
always used sort of instead, I've never been on a diet, let's put it that way. And I had never joined any kind of
Yeah. So that was your
program
first
before joining
experience.
Fit Vegan 5 months ago. That was my first experience of saying, yes, I'm going to join a sort of a program. And yeah, I've never been on a diet where people told me what to eat. But the great thing about Fit Vegan is that you gave guidelines rather than just eat this, this, and this. And that was, I
Yeah.
think, really helpful to me.
Yeah. So to go back, also you're also the co-host of Switch for Good podcast with
I
Dowsy,
am.
which is how we got connected in the first place when I jumped on the show, I think a few months ago.
Yes, I wanted to interview you because I found you on the internet, and I really was intrigued with your reverse dieting and
Mm.
your own experiences with changing your own body. And yeah, I loved you on our show because you were so honest. And that's one of the great things I found about this program too, is that there's no shaming. It's all about being honest and accepting who we are as humans, which is often flawed and imperfect. And
Yeah.
and with that comes, just makes the journey easier, because that's really what it's a journey to health. It's not
Yeah.
like you get there and then it's over. I've actually heard you talk about that, how it's like, it's not something where you arrive.
Yeah, it's you. Well, when you arrive is when you pass away, basically. Like that's when it ends. This whole journey of health, right? That's the only finish line you have, and hopefully, it's a
That's
really long time before you get to that finish line. Um, would love to ask you. I didn't know that was your first program that you've ever done, so I'm curious as to what out of our conversation, because I remember we did the podcast, and then I think it was several months after. Then we reconnected, and you're like, "Hey, I think I want to do the program." What was it
Oh, it was
that
like
made you?
it was a long time. It was quite a long time. It might have been a year
Yeah.
after. Um, yeah. But what happened? Okay, so I think what happened was is that turning 60 made me realize that, I mean, I've eaten pretty healthy over the years. I don't drink soda or smoke, or I've never done drugs. I've done drugs, I think, 3 times in my life. That's it. And they were very intentional to try and see if I could become a better person. And then I realized, no, drugs don't do that. I think I'd prefer to exercise.
Yeah.
so, I've always exercised regularly. I stretched, lifted, and did cardio. So I had pretty good program. And like I said, I was very disciplined about it. The one weakness I had was sugar. And that's all really, I mean, otherwise I don't really think about food much. I just like sugar. And the other stuff just doesn't,
Just fuel.
eh, yeah, it's fuel and fills me. That's it. So I don't, um, and it was last year, I I started eating a lot of sugar. And it sort of pushed out healthy things. And I realized, Alexandra, you're 60. What are you doing? When are you going to stop fooling around with diet? You know how important it is. And so I thought, what can I do? How can I get out of this rut? And my sister always says that when you're in a rut, you have to change something. You can't just keep going and expect change to hit you like a lightning bolt. No, you have to take an
Yeah.
action. And so my action, and I remembered you because of our conversation and your program, and how I felt that I wouldn't be shamed
Mm.
for eating badly, eating a lot of sugar. And I think I felt a lot of shame. So uh, that's why I decided, you know what, Alexandra? you do something different. And that meant calling you and saying, can you help? Can I join your program? And then I spoke to Ivy, who was so lovely,
Yeah.
and she did my intake. And then I started, and it was amazing, the change that happened right away to me. Just by asking for help, I think was making that step was the first thing to
Yeah.
changing. But then you gave me a program, a guideline to eat, how to eat, and that really helped. And yeah, so it's been 5 months. My program actually ends next week.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, there is something powerful when you make a commitment. Life starts to show like happen. If it feels like life starts to happen differently around you, that like more, I think two things: more opportunities start to show up in that commitment that you made, but also life starts to challenge you a little bit more to be like, hey, do you really want this? Did you find any of that as you kind of started the process of like, hey, we're going to clean out the nutrition, we're going to change the training structure a little bit?
Yeah, I was worried about how I was not going to eat sugar. Like I was worried I wasn't going to be able to do it,
Yeah.
because sugar, it was sort of the point where I would wake up in the morning. I can't even remember what I was eating exactly, but just basically chocolate and wasn't binging, by the way, because I'm no longer a binger, but I was
Yeah.
just eating that to the exclusion of anything healthy. And I thought, what are you going to keep doing this? When I was younger, I thought, well, oh, when I'm 40, everything will be fine. I won't worry about food. But that didn't happen. And, 60, here I am. And I'm like, whoa, didn't just hit me like a lightning ball. I have to actually take action, more action. So I think once I called and talked to Ivy, I was actually excited to start. I think I couldn't start right away because I think I was traveling.
Yeah.
So I had to wait a couple weeks. So I was ready. And I had the support of my husband, and that was really crucial.
Yeah. How did that conversation go with your husband? Because a lot of people that are looking to improve themselves or either improve their relationship with food, with their body, or just simply improve their body composition, a lot of times they are the only one in their family that is trying to improve themselves, and it can make it very challenging. So, how did you approach this conversation with your husband?
Well, my husband is an athlete. And so, and when there's sugar in the house, he'll eat it too. So, he's
Especially if he's an
vulnerable.
athlete.
Right, right. And so he was happy because he actually had a few pounds he wanted to lose because he gained a little bit because there had been sugar. There had been quite a bit of sugar. I was eating sugar, and so it sort of happened that way. He's also very supportive. So I think even if he hadn't wanted to, didn't need to change, he would have supported me anyway. But
Yeah.
yeah, so he and I cooked together, which was really nice.
Did
So I'm
he
very
end up
lucky about
leaning
that.
out? Did he end up
Yes, he
leaning out a
did.
little bit? Yeah.
He did. He did. So that was nice. I think I don't remember like for me when I talked to Sarah, my coach with you, we decided that I wasn't going to weigh myself because it wasn't about losing weight for me. It was about eating better and weighing myself. I hadn't weighed myself for a year and a half, and I didn't want to start that getting into that mindset of
Yeah.
which can lead me to restricting and things like that. So, but he did weigh himself, and I think he lost like 7 or 8 pounds. He certainly changed his body composition.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like, one thing is how we coach people is different to the individual, right?
Mhm.
And so we always want to make sure that we meet you where you're at and what's going to be the best for you. Because yeah, I was looking up on your profile from Sarah's account, and I was like, look, I was like, hey, here are the notes. How did she? How was the program and everything? And I did remember it. We didn't weigh. We got our photos. So I'm curious to ask you, like, what did you notice in your body and your health and your energy that shifted over the course of those 5 months as you kind of had guidelines for your nutrition as you had a training plan?
So I leaned out. I just leaned out naturally. And so physically I leaned out. I also, in the past like 4 days, two guys have come up to me and said, "Wow, your arms look amazing." It's so weird. I mean, and I said, and I always say the same thing. Yeah, I'm lifting heavy. I never used to lift heavy before, but
Yeah.
now I'm lifting heavy. And so, yeah, that was funny.
Yeah. You know, your body's
But
changing when people are complimenting you for changes.
yeah, yeah, that's true when other people see it. So I also have, that my torso has always been a point of uh, self-loathing for me. It's the center of where I had, when I was younger, I had a big surgery in my torso. So I have a scar up there. I've had actually a bunch of surgeries right there. So I think, and I tend to store my fat there. And so I've always, not liked that area. And it's amazing how that leaned out, I noticed. Which it hasn't been that lean for years. So I mean, I am already tall and slender, but I definitely saw a difference. I would imagine that probably my weight might be the same, but because I have gained muscle and lost
Yeah.
fat. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing, when you're tall, people don't see like the fat that we have to lose because we're so tall and it's kind of stretched out. But you know if you're feeling pudgy. Like
Yeah.
you can tell, right? We're both really tall people. You can tell if you're feeling soft and pudgy in some areas, and you know if you need to tighten up. But most people see you with clothes on, and they're like, "Ah, you look great," because they can't tell because it's stretched out over such a long frame. I
We hide it.
understand the struggle.
So that's physically. Um, Emotionally was pretty interesting because the reason that I realized right before, around the time I called you, that the reason I was eating a lot of sugar was that my feelings had been really hurt by my mom, and I hadn't brought it up with her, and so I was eating over it for months, and so one thing that I started talking about my pain to a couple of friends after I started the program, and it made it dissipate and not be so right there.
Yeah.
And I became more resilient in life because I felt good about what I was doing. What I was doing was just doing what I was asked to do, and just by doing that made me more resilient in life. And then about a month ago, I brought it up with my mom about my hurt feelings, and I didn't even have any of that emotional trigger anymore. It was a very calm conversation where it is like I felt like I'd healed already. I didn't even have to talk to her about it, actually. Um, it wasn't something that she could resolve. It wasn't her fault. It wasn't her fault at all. And so that was really interesting. And I think because I feel good about the way I'm taking care of myself, that also led me to have more emotional resilience and less reactivity.
Yeah. There's something to when you say you're going to do something and then you start to do it and you actually stick to it. That kind of brings on this true level of confidence of like, oh, I have what it takes to do the thing that I said that I was going to do, and it just kind of builds upon itself to be able to have more resilience, to be able to be more disciplined, to be able to have some of these harder conversations sometimes that we just linger on and we sit on instead of having them and end up causing us more harm than good, just from
Yeah,
holding
I
on
know
to
you wrote
them.
about that. You wrote about that last week or the week before. I thought that was a really great newsletter when you shared. Thank you about that. But you're exactly right. And not only that, is I felt better physically in the mornings, waking up. I just felt better physically. And
Yeah.
so uh, I didn't have all that food chatter in my head either because I was not eating sugar. I,
Yeah.
I have not eaten sugar since I started this program at all. No, and no, really virtually no processed foods, tofu, some crackers. I mean, that's the extent of it. And I
Yeah.
haven't missed it. That's what's amazing. I had my birthday. I didn't have cake. Sarah said, do you want cake? I said, you know what? I don't want cake. I'm not white knuckling it at all. Um,
Yeah.
I think what's really clear to me is that if I have cake, it's not worth it. It just isn't worth it.
It's
How I
never worth it.
feel not eating cake is, and plus there's no doubt that I'm concerned that, if I eat a cake, then tomorrow it'll be two cakes kind of thing, a piece of cake, it'll be two pieces and then it slowly comes back in. There's no doubt that there's part of me that feels that, but mostly I don't miss it because yes, I recognize how am I going to feel. And also I have other things. I really like blueberries now. Frozen blueberries
Yeah.
um, are so good. And I used to never eat fruit because I thought like fruit, no, if I'm going to get something sweet, I'm going to have chocolate or,
I'm gonna make
vegan
it
ice
count.
cream. Yeah, exactly. And it's probably because I didn't really, appreciate the sweetness of fruit. But yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, oh no,
Yeah. Once your
no
taste
fruit.
buds
But
kind
now I
of
love it.
Yeah, once you eat whole food plant based and your taste buds change, you really taste the sweetness in blueberries. Like I don't know if you tried frozen grapes yet. You put them in the
No.
freezer for a bit. Extremely like good level of sweet. Not that type of sweetness where it kind of burns the back of your throat because you've had too much of it. But like just a good level of frozen grapes, great snack. You just appreciate the taste of every fruit and vegetable a lot more once your taste buds have been cleansed from processed sugar and salt and processed foods.
I'll try the grapes. I heard somebody talk about blueberries actually, and he said that one of the great things about eating something like frozen blueberries is that you never know how sweet the blueberry is going to be. So
Yeah.
that kind of intermittent reward is very appealing to people.
Yeah.
So it makes eating blueberries kind of exciting
Yeah.
because you
Or
don't really know. It's every single one tastes a little different.
yeah, and you don't know if you're gonna get a sour one. There's always that little one that sneaks in there. You're like, ugh. My taste buds weren't ready for that.
Exactly.
Yeah. We'd love to ask you about the training part, right? Because he's like, this is the first time that you kind of like lifting heavy. So how has
Mhm.
that shift been for you to kind of transition to lifting heavier? Because I just want to preface this also for the people listening. You didn't go straight to lifting heavy, right? We started off like higher reps and we built you up to that place because a lot of people are hearing that, as you get older, you want to lift heavier for bone strengthening. Like you have to build your body to that. Don't jump into it. So for you, we built you up to that point. How has that shifted for you? How has that felt?
So before I joined the program, cardio was the center of my workouts because, well, it burns calories. That was so it's been ingrained in me in the last 40 years, 50 years maybe, that cardio is what you do for exercise. And then I do stretch myself 45 minutes 3 times a week because I have a stiff lower back. So that I've always done that. So
Yeah.
I've been doing at least an hour of cardio if I'm not training for something, and 6 days a week. And lifting was something that I did because I thought I should, but it was 2 to 3. And I remember hearing you, and it might have been on our show, but I know I heard you say that you really recommend at least 4 times a week. And I was only doing 2 to 3, and I was doing 2 sets. So
Mm.
when I saw your program, where it started at 4, I think, but then it got to 5 and sometimes 6, I was like, what? But
Yeah.
anyway, my sister said, Alexandra, don't worry, because the heavier you lift, the fewer reps you do. So
Yeah.
even so, don't, that was my thing, like, okay, lifting heavy will be good. So, okay, so I started with I think it was 4 sets of 4 to 5 exercises. Um, and yeah, I had to do a lot of substitutions because I do have injuries. I have my back, I have my elbow, I have shoulder weaknesses. So I'm very protective of them, which is one of the reasons I never lift. Oh, and I used to lift 12, probably 15 to 20 reps and never
Yeah.
get to failure. Never. But it did change my body actually. If on Baywatch, my first season on the show, I hadn't lifted for a couple of years. And then in the time between this first and second season, I started lifting again, and you can tell very much a difference in my body type.
Yeah.
And then I broke up with my boyfriend, and you could tell a difference in my body type because I tend, when I'm sad, when I'm heartbroken, I tend to eat less. So it's interesting how, the body changes according to, we do have some control or some, our body does react. It doesn't always, it's not just like that,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah. It's a
um,
reflection of our internal and external environment. Is what our
thank
body
you.
is.
That's beautiful. Yes. Right. So, yeah, my body, because I wore a bathing suit on TV for, 4 years, 4.5 years, then you can see the differences of what I did to it externally and what was going on internally. Um, yeah, so that was, I was lifting really light and half-heartedly, and then your program came along, and basically, it was the centerpiece of the exercise. The cardio was, couple times 50 minutes, and I did keep my cardio in, so I was still doing my cardio, but I also did the lifting, and I never missed, and in fact I even added a day because I liked it. So and 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 I yeah, I really liked it, and I felt really good lifting. Like if I did a day where I just lifted, I still felt really good, didn't need the
Y-
cardio.
Yeah. There's like that sensation of strength that the more you kind of push and you get used to it and you build that mind muscle connection to exercise safely and effectively, there's just that internal strength that if you miss several days of working out, you just kind of feel achy and soft and weak a little bit. You kind of notice a difference compared to when you are doing your workouts.
Yeah, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
So you work with Coach Sarah. So I'd love
Hmm.
to ask you, what are some lessons that you've learned from her from the program as you kind of went through it in the past 5 months? It could be
Well, so
mindset, tactical, whatever it may be.
um, the first thing that, well, she told me, and I agreed, is that I ate like a child before, where
A lot
meaning
of
that
people.
she was right in terms of I was just snacking and not being intentional about my food.
Yeah.
So the program really helped me be more intentional because you planned, and I really liked the overnight oats. I had those every morning, and I added kale because I like that, and but I really like those with the fruit. Um, and then she really, well, we talked about slowing down when we ate because I eat fast and
Yeah.
being more aware. And I think I got better at that. Certainly, I'm not perfect, but was definitely much more aware because I started sitting down for meals more.
Yeah. Isn't
Um,
that funny? What a wild concept to just sit down and eat a meal and be present.
it was pretty wild for me. My husband
Yeah.
was thrilled, though, I have to say. He was happy about that. Because he's more normal than I. um, I just thought of something else that we discussed. I was telling her how I started chewing gum like about a month ago. I think it was, and she said, and we talked about how I think because I'm a little anxious about something. And she said to me, well, what if you just sat with the feeling instead of chewing gum? And I started laughing because it sort of hadn't occurred to me to
Yeah.
just feel whatever I was feeling instead of chewing gum to try and forget it. So I thought that was really, really wise.
She
Yeah.
is very wise.
Yeah. um, and I think just the acceptance of, that I still don't like to eat a meal in the afternoon, in the midday to afternoon. And she said, okay, that's fine. I thought I was snacking too much. So we just discussed that. That was a challenge for me to snack less. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
I like the freedom of not eating very much. I don't like being really full. I don't like being full. I don't even like being so. I like the freedom of knowing, well, if I'm hungry again, I can eat because
Yeah.
I still have plenty of calories. I didn't count my calories all the time, but I did, like, for the first 3 months. I don't think I counted my calories. And then I counted them and I ended up being on exactly at the calorie count, pretty much within, 50 calories. It was pretty amazing,
Yeah.
of what I was supposed to eat, which was, for me, was 1900 calories. And but I've gone up and down, I mean, in terms of calories, I've counted and it's been 2,300. And so I just am aware. And usually it's because I'm snacking on nuts,
Yeah.
pistachios.
That adds up real fast.
Yeah. And yeah. So, and some of the biggest challenges for me when eating has often been traveling, like driving. And I had to do quite a bit of travel the last 5 months. And I did end up, eating, snacking more than I normally would if I were home, because these were like 9-hour drives. They were long drives.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't eat any sugar and I didn't eat all the stuff was whole food. So she said, don't worry about it. Don't beat yourself up. Good job, which made me feel good about that. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I appreciate you sharing that because a lot of people think that this whole journey is going to go perfectly once they commit to kind of improving their nutrition and start exercising. They think that it's just good. They're going to have the time to do all their workouts, that they're going to want to eat the right foods all the time, that they're going to have the time to cook all of their meals. And so, did you have any other, obviously we call them speed bumps in the program, but did you have any other speed bumps in the program that you've had to navigate with kind of life happening besides the road trips?
I'm living in Oregon now. I'm taking care of my mom, so I'm not, and I stopped my health coaching business. I can't audition that much, although I have an audition this afternoon, but because so I'm able to, I'm fortunate that I'm able to take the time to plan and take that time in the gym. So I haven't missed at all, um, any gym time. But that's also because I plan ahead. Like when I travel, I make sure that the hotel, just like you and Ivy do, because I've read your newsletters and listened to your
Yeah.
podcast, that you make sure you book a hotel where there's a gym, or I find a Planet Fitness that's nearby and go there. And um, I just plan ahead and make sure that I always, another thing is that I have food. If I have food with me. I
Yeah.
don't, I don't try and hope that there'll be food where I'm going or anything.
Yeah. Because depending on where you go, there's not always vegan options or healthy vegan options. So I
Yeah.
found that out when I went to Michigan this past week.
Oh, so what did you do?
Grocery stores. I was hungry for a bit before we found. I was getting cranky. I was like, "We need to go to. I need some fruits. I need something." But yeah, we
Yeah.
we managed to make it work. Um, so what are some of the tools that have been the most helpful for you? I use in the program as you've been going through this 5 months. Is it the group chat? Is it the group call? Is it the check-ins, the calls with the coach, the structure? What was most helpful for you?
The meal plans were super helpful because I'm not a cook, right? So I really liked the first couple weeks where you actually gave us recipes of what to eat, like options, like, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Something I never thought, by the way, that I would like to do, follow what someone was telling me, because I think I felt, because of my disordered eating, that I didn't want anyone telling me. I'd feel restricted if
Yeah.
someone told me what to do. Um, but I really liked that, and I actually got a little confused when I went off into the third week, when I had to start doing, a protein here and a carb here and that kind of thing. It got me a little confused. So what I did was I downloaded all the recipes that you have on the site and kept them on my desktop so I could refer to them and just go to them. And then, I pretty much eat the same thing for breakfast. So that was easy. And
Yeah.
then you said something in one of your talks. You said it was on YouTube. So I don't know if it was your podcast but you said here's the way to think about it is have a tofu midday, like a block of tofu, and then a cup of beans at night, and then protein powder and the protein in the morning, and you should have it covered. So
Yeah.
I thought, well, that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, that was on the Facebook group that I
Okay.
shared that. Yeah, as it, when I record people, I was like, you said this at one point. I was like, oh my god, what I say a lot of things in a lot of different places. What did I say? Is it gonna be good? Is it gonna be bad? But I remember that video. Yeah, it makes it so much simpler to make sure you hit your protein for the day without over complexifying the whole thing.
Right. I found a also something that I liked that I sometimes use instead of the um, breakfast, or I had at lunch, which was I took an ounce of tofu, a scoop of protein powder, kale, a berry, and chia seeds, and a banana, and some ice and a little bit of water, and I would do it up like a shake, but it's not a shake because it's not it's too thick for that.
Like a
It's a
smoothie
and
bowl.
it has, it's kind of like that, right? It would be yeah, I guess it'd be a smoothie bowl. It's more like a pudding, really.
Yeah.
And that would, if I had one of those, and I mean, my protein went way over what I was recommended, which I didn't think was terrible. It felt fine, and
Yeah.
yeah, it went up. So,
Oh,
uh,
nice.
yeah,
I was wondering
yeah,
where you're going with those ingredients. I was like, you better put them in a blender because you won't be able
yeah.
to cook with all those together. It's gonna taste nasty. But
No,
yeah, in a bowl,
no,
it tastes good.
right. So I guess it would be a bowl, but very little water because I like it to be kind of thick, right? And I do the
Yeah,
extra firm, high protein tofu.
yeah.
So
Did you ever see Ivy and I's the tofu taco recipe that we put out on YouTube?
I think that was I
Probably the
saw
last
tofus
one.
and tacos. Yeah, then I did in your kitchen.
Yeah, where we're shredding the tofu.
Does it have? Oh no, not
That's
that
yeah.
one then.
Yeah, so it's on YouTube, but I think it's two recipe videos ago. But yeah, we shredded the tofu, put it in the oven. We mixed it with, you press it, you shred it, and then you add paprika, cumin, salt and pepper if you want to, and you put it in the oven, the shredded tofu, for like maybe 20 minutes on like high for bake, and then it dries it up a little bit, and then you can have like a homemade barbecue sauce that you mix with it, and then you
Mm.
have like your protein for like a taco or a wrap or like a shredded pulled pork sandwich. Like there's just, yeah, it's we've been making that like 3 times a week now because it's so fast and easy and it tastes so good because you do a buffalo sauce, you can do different sauces with it.
I will look. I'll look at that one.
Yeah, and I'll give credit to Carly. It was Carly Plant You. We were having dinner with her in New York and she shared that
Oh,
recipe and I was like, oh, we're definitely making that when we come home.
oh, great. Yeah, I love her. She's great. We interviewed her on the Switch for Good podcast. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think
she's
you had her on your podcast too, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah, we had her on the show. We did a book giveaway with her. It actually ended last week.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Good,
Um,
good.
so two more questions for you because I know you have an audition soon, so I want to be respectful of your time. Um, if for the people that are listening that are currently in the program, considering being in the program, or are taking on this health journey of transforming and becoming better, what are pieces of advice that you've taken away from the past 5 months that you would like to pass off to them?
Asking for help is so important, and also asking getting support from someone who's an expert, and I know you've talked about this, is also, I think, really helpful. I mean, you could ask for help from a friend, but sometimes, they won't show up for the workout if you're trying to work with them. So having this program where it's not going to let you down, is really important. I think that was the thing that really changed me, was that asking for help, and recognizing that there was really no, we're afraid of failing. A lot of times we think we have to be, well, clearly I did, because I was in a pretty bad place when I called you. I could have called you 6 months earlier, because I could always have used cleaning up my diet, right? And cooking more. But
Yeah.
we often wait till we feel like, quote unquote, ready to do it. And sometimes that'll take, oh, wait, I think you wrote about that too. About, there was a guy who came to you and he was like, I'm not ready. And he only needed to lose 15 pounds. And then when he became 30 pounds overweight, he came again. And now he's doubled his, challenge, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. So I guess I can also say that learning a lot about, like, listening to what you say, with your Facebook lives and your podcast, have, I think, really helped me, because you have a clear philosophy, which I really like.
Thank you.
It's clear, uh, it's pretty cut and dry, but you allow for humanity. And I've heard you talk about, you can go off your your plan if you want here, but you've got to get back on the next meal. Um, I just like the clarity of your philosophy, you know. So I think that's also helped me a lot.
I appreciate that. No one's ever worded it that way, but yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Um, so, well, one
Well, you're an
last,
expert in changing body composition too, and I think a lot of people think, well, when you're 50 or 60, I mean, the photos that you have shown, certainly of your mother, right, um, belie that myth. But you can change your body when you're 50, 60, 70, right? 80.
yeah, and I think like in the past 2 years, well, the first 2 years of us doing this, I think it was like 20 to 40 was the people that we work with. And then 2.5 years ago, it changed from 45 to kind of 80. And now it's kind
Mhm.
of really narrowing down to like that 55 to 75-year-old, primarily women, a smaller percentage of men. So now we're getting more awesome transformations like yours of people between 55 and 75. And it's just people are seeing like it's doable regardless of the age. It's all doable. Is it going to happen like when you were 20 years old? No, the body's in a different place, but it's
Right.
still doable. And now we just are having more and more and more proof that, like, regardless if you're, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 84, I think is our oldest member, still doable.
It's so important too, because I guess I'm wondering why those people came now. Do you think? Why do you think that women over 50 are coming to you, and
Yeah, the
men?
truthful answer is the because of the podcast that I've been a guest on. That's
Oh, and you've focused. They've heard you, and they've.
Yeah, I didn't say anything. I just was on shows sharing my story, and then that's the people that were resonating to the message. And you think of being a caregiver, you think of reducing the risk of chronic illness, strengthening your bones, bone density. It's sad to say, but when you're in your 20s and your 30s, you're like, I'm invincible. I'm not going to die. I can eat all this crappy food and I don't have to exercise. But as you get older, reality kind of hits you a little bit harder, and you're like, oh, I have friends that are passing away. I had my own health scare. And so I feel like that's who my story is resonating with. And those are the people
Mhm,
that wants to take action because they've either
mhm.
been through something or they have someone that they love that has been through something.
And I think it's because you also gave in pretty concrete terms about how to change body composition.
Yeah.
And it's not just calories in, calories out. It's not a diet. You have to, I think
It's a lifestyle.
helps. Yeah. And
Yeah. It's,
I think that's that's certainly impressed me. And I guess, yeah, maybe those people are the same as I. They felt like, hey, I'm this age and I'm still like not where I wanted to be, where I thought I'd be when I was, I haven't gotten over this or that. I want to be a regular exerciser. I want to eat better. In my case, I want to stop this sugar addiction.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if I'll ever go back. I don't know what's going to happen. Like in the last 5 months, and next week, I'm not nervous about not being on the program because I know I talked to Sarah about, how to live without fit vegan if it's possible.
Yeah.
Um,
Of course.
but but life happens, and I've been able to keep a lot of stresses away from me, and I've been able to exercise, and I've been at home a lot. So but things can happen, and so I'm fully aware of my vulnerabilities of being able to go back. And if I do, then I just have to get back on the
Yeah.
wagon, and it happens, it's just human.
Yeah. So the main thing is just keep the philosophy that you've had and that you've learned through the program, right? To expect you to never eat sugar for the rest of your life, I can just tell you up front, it's not going to happen. At one point, it will happen. And when it does happen, be like, all right, cool. Win
I
the
don't
next
know.
meal.
I haven't eaten meat or dairy. I actually have a friend who hasn't eaten processed sugar for 40 years or something. She was 100 pounds overweight and lost the weight and realized, oh, sugar is the thing, and she's
Yeah.
hasn't eaten it. But
Yeah.
she did
Well,
tell me once, well, I found I was overeating dates. So we always have to be watching ourselves. We have to be aware.
yeah. And being kind
And
to yourself, because if ever you do something that you think you shouldn't have done, it's you make it worse by beating yourself up, right? It's like I'm probably sure you saw that video of like Will Ferrell and Talladega Night. I put it in the master class when he stabs himself in the leg and then his
oh,
friend
yeah.
used the knife, right? So everyone was laughing at the master class. I'm happy that joke hit because of it's a weird scene, but that's basically what happens when you beat yourself up. You just make it worse. You can just
Yeah.
stop. You can just go back to winning the next meal and winning the next moment, and then it's done.
Yeah.
You don't have to beat yourself up for days or weeks on end.
No, I'm pretty good about that, I think now.
Yeah.
In my 20s, I would have, but now I understand, and I feel like, look, before I came to the program, I was doing a lot, like probably better than 90% of Americans in so many ways in terms of health. I
Yeah.
had this one thing, this big mountain that I felt like I wasn't overcoming and that was really affecting my happiness. And Fit Vegan helped me overcome that. But there's going to be another mountain somewhere probably. And, if I have to, I'll come back. I know
Yeah.
people do.
Yeah.
So,
It's one of my favorite quotes from mentors: with new levels comes new devils. There's
mm,
I just climbed a mountain recently in my personal life, and I've always wanted to be in that place. And I got to that place and I realized what the new devil was, the new challenge. And I was like, oh my God, I definitely did not expect that challenge to be there. And I talked to
uh,
my mentor and I was like, no one told me that that was here once I got there. And I was like, this is not depressing, but it's like, this is a big one to overcome. And he's like, that's the new mountain for you to overcome. I was like,
oh,
oh man, yeah, it's part of climbing,
yeah.
right? There's new
Yeah, you can't see
challenges.
what's on the top all the time, right?
Yeah, it's a fake peak. It's not, you're not really at the peak
Right.
of the mountain. Uh, Perfect. So yeah, I know we have a few minutes before your audition, but one question I always like to ask the members is, was it worth the investment in yourself to do the program?
Oh my gosh. Yes. And by the way, I've talked about you several times on our podcast,
I've
and I
heard about
realized that,
that.
yeah, yeah. So I did one show, and then I did a follow-up show too, a follow-up in just saying that, it was after my birthday, I think I was talking about it. But I realized that I didn't tell people that, what I paid. I didn't get any breaks financially, but it was totally worth it. I need to point that out at some point, because I don't want people thinking that hopefully I think they felt that it was genuine, and they hopefully didn't think I was,
Yeah.
got a break on anything. But no, I paid full boat, and it's completely worth it. And if I need to come back, I will do it again, because the way I feel now, is amazing. And the way I'm able to cope with the challenges of, taking care of my mom and living in a new place after 40 years in Los Angeles, it's been, it's like amazing. And so I thank you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you for doing all the hard work, right? Like I tell people is we're here to guide, but you're doing the squats, you're cooking the food, you're eating it, or I can't force you to do that part. So no, I appreciate all your effort. I appreciate the kind words. And yeah, very excited to, I know we'll record some content in the future. I need to make my way up to Oregon because we have one of our team members up there. So when I'm up there, we can do like a workout video together or something.
Excellent. That would be wonderful. I would love that. Okay.
Awesome. Well,
Maxim,
Alexandra,
so good to see you.
yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to record. Everyone, thank you very much for listening, and we will see you in the next episode.